Welcome back, everybody. You got Will and I Man here from the Block Runner, and today we're going to be talking about Unicly, which is a fractionalizing NFT platform.
Yeah, man. Which, dude, if you could spot this old interview we had, it's probably like one of our first ones
Yeah,
ever, right? It
yeah.
might have been the actual first interview we ever did
It might have
with
been. No,
Netflix.
I don't know if it was the first, but it was like one top three, early
Yeah,
three, something like that.
yeah. Go back to 2 years ago. We interviewed a team called Metalith, and they were
Metalith.
working on a new product that does similar things, right? Fractionalizing NFTs, and they identified the same problem these guys identified, meaning like a lack of liquidity for the NFT market, right? So
Yeah.
it's
At the time when we interviewed them, you and I don't think we fully understood. I mean, we knew that NFTs didn't have the liquidity that ERC20s have or fungible tokens have, but
Mhm.
we didn't fully understand like the scope of the problem, right? Because NFTs then were like these tokens and for the most part wasn't as prevalent as it is now.
Yeah, the extent of my NFT like experience and knowledge was basically like
Decentraland.
Decentraland
Yeah.
land.
Yeah.
But right away, I had the feeling of like, all right, I bought this land. Like, let me just try and list one of these things just to see like
Yeah.
if anybody bites. And I think it was like 3 months later, and I got like I got like a bid. I was
Yeah.
like, oh no, dude! Like, what did I get myself into?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Like locked myself into this asset that nobody else wants. Right?
Yeah.
Like I'm fucked.
Not only that, the bid was like way below your price, right? That you
Oh,
paid for.
oh, totally.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was like unfeasible, right? Just a total tease. Like, man, what an ass. But that was the problem, right? And these people were, these project founders, they're trying to find a solution, but it is not easy, right?
Yeah, for sure. And so Uniquely proposes a solution, right? Fractionalizing NFTs, you add liquidity, and all of a sudden you have a token, a fungible token that represents your non-fungible one. And that could be freely traded pretty much anywhere that liquidity exists. And
Mm-hmm.
so it's interesting that we have sort of projects kind of working on this. Uniquely is probably the next attempt at it. And they have a lot of support from a lot of these projects, like Sandbox and Avagachi. They're supporting it to one degree or another, right? So I guess the platform here it lists this token. So it came from a spin up from SushiSwap, right? It was a fork from SushiSwap. This developer took SushiSwap and then modified the smart contracts to be able to stake an NFT and then issue what is known as U tokens, right? So you have
Mm.
U Jenny, you have U Punk, U Mask, Fawocious is on here, Axes, right? Glyphs, all these like main NFTs that we keep hearing up, these blue chips, they're here, and
Yeah.
a price for a single of these fungible tokens are in about $1 or less.
And there's a reason why they're here, right? Because the owners or the collectors of these assets, they know that there's people out there who want to own
Yes,
them as well, but
yes,
they cannot have any exposure to them because they're so damn expensive. Crypto punks in particular. I
yes,
think the base is probably like 100K or something for a punk. I don't know anymore. But who the fuck can afford that, right? But
yeah.
but you still want a little piece of that action somehow. So the best way to do that is to, yeah, allow the minting of these fungible tokens that they turn like these 10 punks into, potentially 100,000 little pieces. Now, the value of these 10 punks is divided by 100,000. Now we got accessible speculative tools for the masses, right, to actually participate. So
So
to me, I'm already on board, right? I'm
no,
already sold.
absolutely, absolutely. But so let's take a look at one example, right? Let's look at punks, the crypto punks. And so the
Mhm.
way that I understand it is some person who owns these punks decides to select these punks, submit them into this platform, unlock a U crypto punk or U punk token, a fungible token, and these tokens, these fungible tokens, represents the entire collection of these CryptoPunks. So what I'm wondering is, this is a single guy. Maybe it's an institution that's been collecting all these
Yeah.
punks, but
Yeah. Yeah. Mhm.
this selection here should be extremely valuable, right? We're talking about millions of dollars here, right? Just by themselves.
Potentially, not really sure. but
Yeah.
it's left up to the market to decide, I guess. But
So here,
yeah,
the market cap for this UPunk token that represents all these NFTs is $22 million.
Hmm. Yeah, what'd you say? 10 million?
22 million.
22 million. Yeah, dude, even better than you were anticipating. So, yeah, that's what the market is deeming the worth of this collection. So,
It's
pretty wild, dude.
So UPunk available in liquidity pool is 37 million. And total UPunk supply is 250 million.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so that's interesting. So the point here is that this is a protocol, right? From I guess a fork from SushiSwap to add liquidity to assets that have no liquidity, like traditionally have no liquidity. So
yeah, that's just like scratching the surface, I think, like explanation of what's going on here. To dig deeper, I mean, I don't think we got enough time. We probably have to do like a full length podcast to kind of like go through the assumptions that are being laid out in this light paper. I mean, it's not very long. It's pretty easy read, actually. I recommend everybody who agrees with the premise that, you know, liquidity is an existing dilemma in the NFT ecosystem, right? Like if you agree with that premise, then you agree that there needs to be a solution to that to fix that problem. Then you should definitely read this light paper or any light paper, you know, addressing the same, you know, scope of problem. And try your best to make sense of it. But but yeah, let's break through like a couple of points within this paper, see if we can.
Yeah.
You know.
So I guess the first one is like, why even fractionalize NFTs, right? And so if you read this section, it really talks about the lack of liquidity in NFTs.
Yep.
And then, so let's set the stage a little bit, man. Let's go back to the Unicly token, which is available, and let's see what's happened throughout like its entire existence, right? So we maxed out, and it just seemingly took a small dump of about 99%.
That's a pretty fat dump, dude, if you ask me. The reasonings why, that's a good question, man. Clearly, like around May was definitely like, I don't know.
Yeah, May is the big dumping of Bitcoin.
Yeah, so it was like probably just a unfortunate release of a product.
Yeah,
bad timing, right? Like the market sentiment reversed, and I think it's having a difficult time, you know, reinvigorating interest at this point. And
right.
Yeah, that's not to say there's no fundamental value to it. If anything, this says if you can identify fundamental value to a project like this, and you see a chart like that,
exactly.
These are the like lifetime opportunities, right?
Not only that,
Not
only that, from a degen's perspective, look at these metrics here: max supply 800,000 tokens, circulating supply 255,000. Like this is juicy for the speculator out there at a market cap of 22 million. Like this is a solid outline here.
Yeah, I'll be honest, dude. Like, because we're in the process of writing a white paper for our project. We've been in the process for a while now, so I've been reading a lot of white papers and evaluating a bunch of projects, and this one's definitely a standout. Like as far as what's the word?
The thought process that went into this, and
the thought, the ambition, and like the application of core economic principles. Like there's a very good understanding of human behavior, and I think that's essential when you're creating ecosystems. Like you gotta have that understanding of human behavior and expectations, or else, you know, you can't lay out like some foundational tool, which this can be, and then expect people to use it. Like if you design it improperly, right, it just won't work. So yeah, having said that, no financial advice here, but you know, I'm definitely turned on right now. But yeah, let's continue.
Let me see. I had a couple of other points here. So it's an anonymous founder. This person named Leah, and so this person, like I said, forked SushiSwap, made this project. And I'm assuming she's a big collector of NFTs, and she keeps talking about some of these like partners that that are leveraging the platform, like Aavegotchi, right? A lot of these tweets are about Aavegotchi, Axie, some of the kind of the blue chip NFTs out there. So going back to like the reasonings why NFTs and fractionalization is important, I think people are already doing this, right? You talked about investing in B20 just because, Beeple is going to continuously come out with bangers, and you have a token that represents, someone collecting a bunch of Beeples. You would expect that token to go up, right?
Yeah. Like we had these discussions early on when we first found out about social tokens, right? At the beginning, we were very hesitant and we were like almost in opposition of it, calling these things like, dude, these guys are scamming the world, right? Like in particular, Whale, right? Because I think it's one of the bigger social tokens out there. And from the immediate, like, instant reaction was like, okay, this guy's he's a whale. He has a ton of assets, and he's minting a token and claiming by you taking ownership of these tokens, somehow you have a shared in the ownership of the NFT assets that he has in his wallet, or like that he bought. It just felt a little weird at the time, but over time it starts to make sense, and then now with the B20 thing, he the Metaverse organization invested in like all of Beeple's highest valued art. And so I guess the question is, like, what is it that fuels the speculative value of these tokens, right? They're called social for a reason, so you can't really pinpoint it on anything,
underlying value on the asset itself.
It's
more like the intangible assets of like the marketability of the individual person who's owning these NFTs.
Yeah. So that's not to say like the only assets that are going to go through the Unicly platform are going to be social tokens. I think a lot of PFP projects can leverage Unicly, and like just to lay out like a primitive, like foundational, in DeFi space, they call them Legos, right?
Yeah.
They're composable features of like of an entire ecosystem. You got Uniswap, then you've got Aave, you've got different DeFi services built in all these different protocols. I think what you see with Unicly could potentially be a ground level NFT ecosystem primitive, right? Where like project founders can start from there to tokenize their collections and their assets and stuff like that. And with these new, resources, you can kind of build more composable layers on top of that, right?
Yeah.
So,
yeah, I totally agree. I think thinking about Unicly as a composable asset for like the future of NFTs, I think is actually right, because we've had a number of these revelations throughout our like research history in crypto. It started with SushiSwap. It really started with Bitcoin. When we first heard about Bitcoin, every single person that first hears about it just blows it off. Every single one. Those who didn't blow it off, had an intimate understanding of cryptography, and obviously they benefited handsomely.
A strong disdain for banks.
Yeah.
Or the dollar or something, right?
So in the progression of this, right, it's first Bitcoin, you blow it off, and then you start learning about it, you get on board. Then it was like SushiSwap. We blew it off, and it looked like a big old scam. And then the entire crypto industry adopted it, right? Like these 1,000% gains and yield farming and all that. Every single project is doing it. And, then comes across things like fractionalizing NFTs, right? It comes off as like, some sort of cash grab when you first think about it. But then when you break down the issues with NFTs and liquidity and all that stuff, fractionalizing into a fungible token makes a lot of sense. And so we're just here to present the problems and the solutions, and I think this does cover those solutions pretty well. And if you read the light paper in this case, it's has an intelligent representation of the problem and the solution. And that's the stuff that we like. We like finding these solutions because we're in the NFT space. We see the problems. We understand what's going on in the NFT space, and I mean we're solving different kinds of problems in the NFT space. But ultimately, this is one of those composable things that a lot of projects could leverage.
Yeah, totally. And I think that's where the opportunity lies. Because it's tough to find and identify. I mean, but I want to call this a gem potential. That's probably going to be the title of this video. Most likely it's like the next fucking NFT gem project, 1000x, whatever potential. Right. But then we've got your concerns, right? I mean, we're looking at a Twitter profile of an unknown identity, that's always, zoom in real close to that, dude. Like how much can you trust, this silhouette of an avatar,
But
that's the question I pose to you, Willis.
No, it's a valid question, and we don't have the identity primitives in crypto to really make anonymous founders legitimate. I think we still have a lot of work to do in the crypto space as far as identity goes. I think there's ways to solve it, but when it comes to anonymous founders and projects, that's a red flag, no matter what day it is. And we have good examples of solid anonymous founders, right? With Satoshi being the number one. But in a lot of cases, if you're solving a real problem, why do you have to be anonymous? For what? That's my hang up about being anonymous.
It probably just makes your life that much less complicated and difficult. You don't have to interact with the world truly, right? You could stay comfortable in your social, portals of communication. You don't actually have to attend events or expect to shake hands with anybody. None of that bullshit associated with being an actual human. You get to do what you want to do, create and disrupt and still maintain your anonymity and your comfort
sanity
of living, right?
Comfort, that is true. That is true. But then you leave yourself up to skepticism, like we're doing. So there's a trade-off.
Yeah, but my position on things. I do. I don't know, but I am torn because I see your side, and there's tons of evidence to suggest you shouldn't trust anonymous founders, dude. Because more times than not, you're gonna get fucked. But again, come up with your own judgment in the sense that read the light paper.
Yes, exactly. That's where we have a lot less skepticism because the problem is identified pretty well. The solution is identified pretty well. They have examples of these scenarios, right? So it's pretty clear, right? The problem is pretty clear. The solution is pretty clear. The fact that they're anonymous is like a ding in this big shield here, but ultimately, we have fair distribution. So there's a
fair launch of the token itself. It's also reinforces a little bit more
there's no rug pull potential here if everything was technically set up correctly, right? There's no vulnerabilities in the smart contract, things like that. So and the cap for Unix token is 1 million. So I mean everything is lining up right, but a lot of these anonymous projects, that rug pull, everything looked good in those as well. And, you have what you have.
Yeah. So at the end of the day, a takeaway, message, if there is one, just at face value, when I first introduced myself to this project, I got the same vibes and gut feelings I got when I first heard about Uniswap and liquidity pools for the first time back in 2018 and DeFi when it was it was just a whisper in the wind at the time and nobody really could make sense of what the fuck these people were building, but you kind of had a sense something was being built, something significant, right? And it takes time for the rest of the world to kind of gravitate towards these new technologies, and then once they do, it's too freaking late. You missed the boat, right? So this is kind of your duty as a participant in the crypto ecosystem. You kind of have to make judgment calls and, you're playing in a risky Wild West environment. you know.
Yeah, you have to do the research, and
Yeah.
that's probably, you know, a really good reason why we like what we're doing, because we're able to, since we're in the space, we're able to understand the problems so deeply that we're able to spot solutions, and we're able to like quickly see like the value of these projects. And we like explaining them to everybody, you know, that's watching, right? So yeah, I mean, this is a solid project in my eyes just because of the problem solution thing, but this is definitely not investment advice, but definitely look into it.
Yeah,
though.
and also don't expect like a 1,000x overnight. Like this is like I think a slow adoption curve for a project like this. You know, it's
people are still onboarding to NFTs, right? You don't have the audience in just the fungible side that you do in NFTs, right? The NFT side is a lot smaller than the fungible side. So, there's going to be an adoption curve for something like this. There's going to be a maturity curve in the sense that identifying the problems and identifying solutions. So, there's a lot of runway here, but that's why we're talking about it, because potential solution, right? Potential gains here.
Yeah, it might not be till like the next cycle, like this actually truly takes off. You know, like this current cycle that we're in today might just be like the NFT mass awareness phase, just like, you know, 2017 was like cryptocurrencies mass awareness phase, but there was no application for crypto at the time.
That's right.
It was during the bear market when there were these developers started figuring out actual applications
like
for cryptocurrencies.
DeFi.
Yeah. So more than likely during like the next bear winter is going to be like when people figure applications and utility use cases for NFTs, right? And then that's going to be the catalyst in the field for the next bull cycle.
Yeah,
most likely.
Totally agree.
You know. So.
All right. Well, that's been Unicly. Let us know if you have any questions in the comment section below. Like, subscribe, follow us on Twitter @TheBlockRunner, and we will catch you in the next video.
Peace.